to give everyone an update. So as you just heard, we're recording this meeting. So if you're okay with, if you don't want your voice or image shown on any videos, then you just leave your camera off. Although I think the camera is usually focused on whoever's talking. So that's how it gets recorded. So if you're not talking, then I don't think you'll be recorded. So, well, I do have a presentation, a PowerPoint. I'll try to keep it less boring than most PowerPoints, but I'll just quickly share that here and get started. So most of you know Project Zawadi, but in case anybody new is here, we have three main programs that we use to improve educational opportunities in Tanzania. We have three programs: student sponsorship, attended teachers, and model schools. We won't talk about the first two today at all. I'll talk very briefly about the model schools program. We've selected 4 primary schools in rural Tanzania. The one pictured here is Kurusanga Primary, and actually in the bottom here is a kindergarten classroom that we built several years ago. And over here are 2 classrooms and a teacher office that we built even more years ago. And over here, these classrooms actually have been recently renovated. You can't tell that that picture is a little bit old there. But we've decided to focus on 4 schools and provide them with all sorts of support, because we realize that, if you really want to improve education, you have to think about it holistically. It's not just one thing that will make an education a high quality education. So we work with local community members, and they create, the leadership of the schools, they create their strategic plans on how they want to improve their schools. And then we help them to reach their goals and to fulfill their plans. All of the schools are needing things like infrastructure development. They need classrooms built or teacher housing. We're providing professional development as well. But they all also ask for water. And so we decided that we would do that. We would go ahead and try to help them with the water. So we decided in early 2020 to start fulfilling those requests for water. And so we did a fundraiser to do that. Every spring we do a special fundraiser, and this one we did for water, and it kind of coincided with the beginning of the pandemic, which was somewhat appropriate, given that people were being told to wash your hands frequently, and you didn't have water. That was difficult. But we did have over 135 donors to the project, and we raised over $53,000. So it was a really nice, big success. And we used those funds to get ourselves started. So we didn't really know what we were doing. We'd never done water before, and we didn't really know what would be necessary. We didn't know if there would be water sources that would be usable nearby, or if we could catch enough water from the rooftops of the school buildings, how much water would be needed. We're not experts in water. We have a lot more expertise in education than in water. So the first thing we did was we did an extensive search process, and we found Good Luck Estomi, who would be here, but it's 3 a.m. in Tanzania, so I didn't really want to make him wake up for this. So I'm going to include a lot of what he has to say in this presentation, but I'm not going to wake him up at 3 a.m. If you have questions I can't answer, I'll ask him later and get back to you on that. But he is a water engineer that we hired full-time. Now, he's a young guy, and doesn't have a ton of experience, but really, really effective at his job. But we also hired an engineer named Bia Merwa to consult a much more experienced engineer. So he came to the project a few times to make sure that Good Luck was on his P's and Q's and was doing everything properly, which of course he was in almost every situation. But it was good to be sure, because we didn't want to make an investment that later turned out to be the wrong one. So just to give you a sense of it, I'm not showing you all of Good Luck's checklists, but these are the types of things that he started off. His first thing was to do some stakeholder engagement and get to know everybody in these villages. There are 4 villages that he had to work in. And so these are some of the people. I couldn't fit it all on the screen, but these are some of the people that he went through and met all the folks to know, hey, we're going to do some water projects here. Show me where I need to go, who I need to talk to. So that's what he did. And then he did a water needs assessment, went around and did all kinds of calculations to figure out how many people are there, how many animals do they have, how fast is the population growing, where are they, and where are their sources of water, what are their sources of water like, are they available year round, those sorts of things. He was doing a lot of analysis, a situation analysis. And you can see here just the list goes on of all the different things that he had to do. And then he did a report. And then the report, which is actually, I think, 30 pages long, this just gives you a little bit of an idea of what he was doing, was looking at each village, looking at the size, the growth rate, how many people are there now, how many people will there be, and how much water will they need, that sort of thing. And he also went around and looked at every single water source in all 4 of those communities, and he took a photograph of them. And so some of them you'll see here, they had some, what do you call it, shallow wells, but some of these pumps didn't work. Most of them didn't work, and some of them were contaminated. And most of the water sources looked like this. They were basically just natural springs, or maybe the community 50 years ago dug down so that the water would always be there. But you can see a lot of times this water is very susceptible to contamination. Wasn't very safe water. So after doing all that analysis and a lot more that I won't share, we all basically concluded that the only solution was borehole drilling. He had calculated the amount of rainfall. He looked at rainfall patterns and all that, average annual rainfall, and concluded that the rainfall, if we gathered as much as possible off the school, we would still not be able to cover the water usage needs for the year. And so we're still doing water collection because it's free water from the sky is really nice, but it's not enough to meet the needs of the schools. And we also wanted to meet the needs of the nearby communities. So we decided that we would drill boreholes at 3 of the 4 schools. One of the schools has a borehole already that the district government had already drilled and was connecting to a nearby water tank. So there we didn't need to drill a borehole, but there were 3 other schools where we did need to do that. So we commenced a fairly intense selection process. We put out a request for bids in a very open, transparent way, selected from these 6. This is just to give you an idea. There was a lot of analysis that went in. Each of these companies submitted probably a 12 to 20 page bid and an explanation of their experience and what they could do and how they would charge us and all this kind of thing. So we were able to do that, and the red ones we were able to eliminate early on, and then selected PNR out of the green group, which was the second lowest price, but we just didn't feel that the lowest price, they didn't have the experience and the equipment that we were comfortable with. So we went with the second least expensive drilling company, and they brought out their equipment from quite far away, and their crew and their team, and they set about going to each of the 3 schools and drilling holes. And they did not strike water the first time. I think twice. Once they struck water the first time, because then they surveyed the land also, right? There's a way that they go out and they survey and they make educated guesses about where underground water may be accessible. I think one of their 3 guesses was correct at the one school, but then the other 2 schools, they had to drill twice. But we kept pushing, like, we need water, you need to find it, and they were able to find it. And so I have a little video here. Oh, let me unshare and then share again, because I need to share with sound and optimize for video. So they were able to identify, locate water at all 3 of those schools. At 2 of the schools, they found a tremendously good source of water, like really, really fresh, abundant water.
Hey, Brian.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. So we were not able to see the video. We were only able to hear the sound just now. And right now we're just looking at your Zoom tab.
Oh, I didn't select the correct one. Sorry about that, guys. Thank you for telling me that, Brianna. I always make mistakes on these, so.
We're a very real people organization.
I'm not going to play the whole video again, but there, now you can see it, right?
Yep, that's it.
And then you can see them get a sense that they were drilling there, and they were able to get water. So this is one of the 4 schools. And what Good Luck then did is he went out and talked to the community many, many times about where do you need water? What do you need it for? And in this particular case, on the top right corner where it says BH, that's the borehole. That's where they actually found water at this school. And then they're going to pump this water up to one of these red boxes up here where they'll put a water tank, and then the water will flow to the other red boxes for the distribution points. Several distribution points at the school, one at the nearby medical dispensary, and one at the community. So that, is what Good Luck did. He did 4 of these, went out and figured out where these should go, had to get the land fully surveyed to make sure that the water will be high enough so that it flows down to where it's needed. But he did all of that. And then he had to draw, do his engineering drawings of, exactly how these systems will be installed. He had to do tons of calculations to figure out which size of system is needed, what size of pipe, all these kinds of things that we would have never been able to figure out. But he's got all of his plans in place. And then he had to mobilize the community. So he'd go to the community. Now we've only completed one of these projects, one of the 4. So here he is at Cambarage Primary School, mobilizing the community, getting them ready to start installing the first system. And here it is, installing the first system. The community contributed to manual labor. You can see them digging trenches and installing these pipes under the ground. And then here you have it. This is a video of the kids getting water. I do believe this is probably the first time many of them ever saw running water. And the school, they get to use the water for free. The kids, they don't have to, none of them pay for the water. And the nice thing there is actually they're washing their plates because they have food now. They're actually eating, but that's a different program. That's our model farms program, where they're able to start growing their own food. And here you can see this hand washing station that is really simple, but is very effective. You get a pipe up there, poke some holes in it, and then let the students wash their hands several at a time. Very effective. And now a couple of stories. So this man here standing at the water spigot, this is the community water spigot. So
this is quite interesting.
Thanks.
So,
the community is able to get the water from this distribution point. It's not in the school, so they're not making noise or whatever for the students. But his name is Juma Choto. He's been selected by the community to keep the water records. So he's in charge of the water system. He keeps records of the electricity consumption. He collects and records water sales, tracks when he starts and stops the water pump. Then he has an assistant. They are the eyes, hands, and legs of the Cambarage Water Project. They are devoted villagers, and we're thankful that the community selected them. That I was reading what Good Luck wrote to me. So how's it going? Here's what Good Luck says. He says, well, the system attendants are committed, selected by the community members. They get a cut from the fees per bucket as their incentive. The price was agreed to by the whole community, and when the system is well established, the water management committee will consider further how to incentivize the attendance. Nobody has complained about the price of water. In fact, they are ready to contribute to sustain it further now that they see the reality. Diane?
Do you know what they pay per bucket?
Yeah, it's 2 cents per 5-gallon bucket.
Okay.
And I have it on
reasonable.
Yeah, I have on another slide the more of the math. You'll be able to see what that is to them. And here's just an idea of, this is Juma's record. So he keeps it in this book here, and he has all the names of all the, and by the way, down the left side is Mama Elia, Mama Choto, Mama this, Mama, it's all mamas. Mamas are the ones who, and in Tanzania, if you don't know, most women, when they become a mama, their name is, their official title becomes their mama. So everybody's name is Mama something, and usually Mama Mary, her first daughter is probably Mary, named Mary. So they're named after their first child. And so, yeah, that gives you an idea. And as Good Luck says, this is his Excel worksheet. Here's a photograph of actually, I believe this is the chairperson of this village. He was just curious. He was so excited about having a tank full of 10,000 liters of water. He just had to get up on the ladder and see it for himself. But basically, the electricity, we're using electricity at this school. We're probably going to use solar power at 2 of the other schools. Those are for technical reasons that Good Luck understands better than me, but basically this water well has a slower flow. And because it has a slower flow, we need to pump water at night. And so therefore the solar power won't be sufficient to fill this tank once a day. So that's why we had to go with electricity here. That will cost a little bit more. So it costs $2.14 to fill that tank. That's 10,000 liters, which is approximately 528 5-gallon buckets. And during the day, the community and the school will use 1 full tank of water each day, or at least they were in the beginning. That will fluctuate. And usually, and what we're seeing so far is that the community is using 60% of the water, and the school is using 40%. So when you take 2 cents per bucket, they're making about $6.32 a day. That leaves a profit after they pay for the electricity of about $4 per day. That will be used to pay Juma and his assistant, and also to put some money aside for repairs when the repairs inevitably must happen. So that's what they're being trained on. Good Looks is giving them lots of training and support, working with the government as well to support them on that effort. We are, like I said, we are also doing water catchment. So at the school, we are putting in, like, especially for the teacher housing, large water tanks to catch all that water that's coming off of the roofs of the house there. Just wanted to point that out. And then a couple of things happened that we just didn't even really expect to see happen. So we're pretty excited about it. And so here's a couple examples. This woman, her name is Mama Fina. She's actually, looks like she's feeding her child right now. But anyway, so Mama Fina, she's established a small vegetable garden to add to her family nutrition just after having water reliable and affordable close to her home. She never did this before, only after getting water from this Cambarage borehole. That's what Good Luck wrote that. So I thought I'd share that with you. So it's just one example. We didn't anticipate, all the changes that would happen when somebody has access to water. And here's another Mama Constantine. She saved some money and time to employ local masons to make 400 mud blocks, which she used to erect her new kitchen, which is photoed there to the right. And it was made possible because there's affordable and accessible water nearby. When people make bricks in Tanzania, they use a lot of water. And so this new water project has eased the entire process, and she soon will put a roof on her new kitchen. So she's pretty excited about that. Oh, yeah. And so then I wanted to show you a video, but when I tried to include it in this PowerPoint, it wouldn't work. So I'm going in here. I want to show you, this is sort of like a finalized video now of the work that we've been doing. This one right here.
Wakina mama walikuwa wana mahangaiko makubwa. Walikuwa maji ukinawa unatunza, kesho tena unanawa. Tulikuwa tuna shida, tulikuwa tunalala kisimani. Tulikuwa tumezaa mpaka na kisimani, na mimi mojawapo kuzaa kisimani. Wanaume walikuwa wanatufukuza. Hii sio maji, ulienda maji saa ngapi?
I'm very happy about how Project Zawadi is organizing and funding these water projects. So when we have water, we have the hygiene, sanitation and hygiene at school. And besides that, even the community will be able to access clean and safe water throughout the year, and especially during peak dry season.
Jamani, kwanza mimi natoa shukurani kubwa. Sisi wanawake mmetutua ndoo kichwani. Hatukujua kwamba tunaweza kupata maji hapa kijiji Tiringati. na tulikuwa tunaishi kwa shida hadi tunapigana, masikio yanabaki kisimani. Sasa hivi nani atampiga mwenzake? Unakuja unachota maji unaenda.
I will be training the community and the committee that will be running the water projects to ensure that the community will be able to sustain themselves, having the water, running it, using it, and know how to make it really sustainable.
Hatuna zawadi, lakini tungekuwa na zawadi tungewapa, ila ninawaachia Mungu mwenye uwezo hawanyanyue. Hata mimi sasa hivi najivunia nimekuwa msafi kwa sababu ya maji. Maji ni maisha ya mtu, bila maji hujaishi.
Seeing people fetching water, seeing them drinking water, and seeing smile in their faces has increased my muscles to become more professional and more focused in water projects.
So that's the end of the presentation. So thank you all for, the work, not the work, but the donations, the contributions to this work have been just so powerful. We've learned a lot. And I guess I could summarize some of it too. We didn't know how much it would cost. We didn't know if we'd be doing borehole drilling or, what we would be doing. So, we're right now trying to raise more funds for the next schools. So right now we're working with several Rotary clubs around the world. Actually, we have some in Germany, some more in Europe. Rotary, Russ, are you in the Rotary in Northfield? I can't remember if you are. I think you are. You're muted, Russ. Welcome, by the way. We're thinking that the Rotary Club is going to pay or contribute to a large portion of 2 of the schools that we have coming up, but we still have we probably still need to raise almost another $20,000 to do the next 3 schools. So it did cost quite a bit to do all of that, but we're really confident. We're not rushing this. It did take us a while, but I think it makes sense because we wanted to do this right. If we rush it, it becomes our project. If we go at their pace, it's their project. So we're doing it not just their pace, but also at a pace that is more palatable. You come into a village like this, and they're probably looking at you like, you're going to bring water? I doubt it. It seems really unlikely to them. And so to really participate and be a part of the process takes some convincing of are you for real? Is this really happening? So one of the stories I didn't tell, I forgot, was that also now that the water is there, one of the teachers at the school, apparently she has already paid money to pipe the water to her house. So, they have a system, they've allowed her to do that. I'm sure she's paying some sort of fee, but now she has water running to her house. I don't know if it's inside or just outside her house, but she did the calculations that I can run a pipe. So she has that. I think she had to put a meter on because we are, I was telling Good Luck, we really should put meters on, except for the school. The school doesn't, they're getting their water for free. The students use the water without cost. And I'm sure they'll be watering their garden, the school garden, with that as well. So any comments or questions? I try to answer, not the expert on it.
I just want to say how amazing this work is. I worked with water projects on the other project that I worked in, and it is very, very difficult. You guys are doing, this is an amazing job. I'm very impressed.
Yeah. Actually, thank you. When I put this presentation together today, I was impressed. I thought, wow, this is incredible. I mean, it's taken us 2 years to get here, but we just, and it's our philosophy always to just take one step at a time, do the right thing, think it through. We shouldn't be in too much of a rush to push people to do things they're not quite ready to do yet. They haven't quite understood it. If we go at it the proper pace and think about it carefully and pick the right people. That's the thing. I mean, there are so many really amazing, talented Tanzanians. If you take your time, and we always do, we take a good amount of time to select Good Luck. It took us, Dan McIntyre is on, hasn't said hello yet, but Dan was a major part of that as well. Dan's pretty smart. He's an engineer of some sort, right? And so Dan helped us interview and make sure that he had, that Good Luck could do the engineering side of it. the technical side of it to make sure that you're putting things together that will work for 10 years at least, right? That will work for the long term, that will be sufficient, that will do all these other things and get the water to the right place, and testing the water regularly to make sure that it's clean and, healthy to drink. So it's all good. Yeah, Ron.
Yeah, I have two things. One is there's a long history in this region of failed water projects. In fact, about 4 or 5 years ago, there was an investigative report done by a radio station in Wanza that went out and surveyed all the failed water projects in the area that we've been working in. And the reason why they failed is because they went in, they dug the wells, they never got the community involved, and they were not sustainable projects. So we're operating on a different model where the community is involved in this from the very beginning. So these are basically sustainable projects, which in this area is quite unusual. At least the history suggests that it's quite unusual. So that's the one thing I want to say. And then secondly, I remember looking at some data from the government a few years back about waterborne diseases. And this was an area of Tanzania that had a high level of waterborne diseases. And I think a lot of children were probably missing school because they were getting sick from drinking dirty water. So we probably don't have the data to track this, but I suspect that providing clean water to these schools is going to have an impact. These schools is going to have an impact on school attendance and a decline in waterborne illnesses among the children.
Yeah, it definitely will. It definitely will. And the water will be used to grow food as well. And the food program, which there's another wonderful video I'm not going to share today, where you can see that the students, when they can eat at school, it also really helps attendance. So they're not walking back home all the time. But you did make a good point, Ron, which I forgot to point out, is that you go around. I mean, well, in one of the video or one of the slides, you could see other shallow wells. Most of those wells are not functioning. They'll break and then they just fall into disrepair. And so it is very common for projects like this to not be sustainable in the longer term. So that's why we are very intentionally staying with them for quite a while. There's a lot of additional training, but not just training. It's like the conversations. It's not like I'm here to tell you what to do, but we let them make a lot of decisions, right? Do you want to do solar? Where do you want us to put the water? How do you want us to do this? Like, what makes the most sense? And so long conversations that Good Luck had in these community meetings to really make sure that this was going to be something that they really wanted, and that they would keep it going, and that they would know how to. A lot of, I saw some other reports and studies and videos done where people will go and look at projects that didn't work. And a lot of times the local people will say, well, it wasn't my project. It was their, why didn't the government do it? Or whoever brought it here, they're the ones who's supposed to fix it. And they didn't really show us how to do it. How do I fix a water pump?
Yeah.
So Good Luck's spending a lot of time making sure that they really own it, and they're saving money. They have to put the money aside. And the thing that I've learned, one of the things is that the government does have a structure in place, like from the national level all the way down to the village level. They have structures in place, and there are, like, each village in Tanzania has a water committee, and that village government is democratically elected. And so the water committee has job to do, but many times those water committee members don't know what their job is. They've never been trained on how to do that. They're just like supposed to be fixing the water somehow, but they've never really understood even what their roles are. At this village, actually, there was a community meeting that Good Luck was at, and Good Luck brought the district water official there. And when the community said, "Oh, this water well that's really far from the school, that's not working," and the district leader said, "Have you asked us to come? Have you asked us? You have my number?" So just learning how the system works, knowing who's in charge, who do you call if this happens, what do you do if this other thing happens? It's not something you can just throw at somebody and leave.
Right. So Brian, I was going to ask, you were talking about training. I know in the water projects we worked on, we trained a person to do the mechanics, just the simple stuff, not the hard stuff. Is that also part of the training?
I assume so. I wish Good Luck was here for that one because, you know, he's the one in charge of all the technical side of it. But yeah, I'm sure he is. I mean, he's talked about it in the past of giving them the technical training. I mean, there are some simple things that need to be done. I think
Yeah.
once a quarter, you need to go in and grease something, right? You need to go in and make sure that things are turning properly or something like that. I'm probably totally wrong on that, but you get the idea. There's some basic maintenance that needs to happen on these things, and flushing of the system, I think, is what he does. You know, it shows them how to flush the system. And then I think also some testing. The water should be tested. I think the government has the facilities for testing water. Let's test it once a quarter or once a year, whatever is appropriate, to make sure that the water is still clean, you know, and safe to drink, that sort of thing. So,
Cool.
yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. So it's pretty exciting. Anybody else? Any other? Thank you all very much for your support of this. It's really exciting, and looking forward to doing more, and you know.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. I came in late, but I'm very impressed.
Thank you, Russ. It's good to see you here. Who else is in? Melinda is here. Nice to see you, Melinda. People, we said hello when we started. Jackie, nice to see you here. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
You said hello to the others already, right? Yeah, so.
Hey, Brian, one thing you mentioned briefly but didn't show us any pictures of was the rainwater collection systems, because all of the new construction that's been done, whether it's teacher housing or new classrooms or whatever, they all have rainwater collection systems. And that's part of this project that we didn't really see the pictures of. You did mention it in passing, but I think that's important to note as well. Yeah.
Yeah, we are doing rainwater collection, and I think it just makes sense to collect free water, right? Collect it from the sky and use that, because even in the solar powered systems, there's maintenance costs. There's, you know, to keeping that going, and you know, so it's always good to just have water collected right from the sky. So I don't know if we're going to do it every single building. You know, that'll be Good Luck. You know, he does the math. You know, he does the math to make sure that what we're doing makes sense, that you know, that this will collect enough water to justify that tank and that sort of thing. So I don't know if every single structure, you know, we're like, for example, next year we'll probably build some school kitchens, and those kitchens won't be very large. So I don't know. I bet we don't put it there, but most of the big structures, you know, you can gather catch a lot of water off of those. So it makes sense to put a big tank there. So,
Brian, this is Mary Ann. Is the rainwater collection, is that something that you do at each location, full, the full?
is it something that we do at each school?
Right, but before, you know, you're able to do the whole system. I mean, is that something that could be put in place?
Yeah, come to think of it, yeah, that's right.
And work, or you put in full-blown project.
So I think I understand the question. You broke up a little bit, Marianne, but I think I got the question. So come to think of it, at all of these schools, there already was a water tank at each of those 4 schools. Yeah, that's right. There already was a water tank at all 4 of those schools. And in 1 or 2 of those cases, we helped build those tanks. And in 2 or 3 of those cases, we didn't do it, somebody else did. It had been done either by the school or by the government or by some other organization. There was an organization that came through several years ago and did a bunch of water tanks in the area. They did water tanks and toilets. And so, but each of the schools had it. We did not build any of these. Well, at Cambarage, we built the tanks at the same time, roughly, that we were building the water system. So we weren't building the tanks at the other schools to, you know, in advance of the permanent water system coming in. So.
And do you know how much rain they get during the rainy seasons? Is it a arid area, or is it?
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And she's on a delay, I think, so.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah. So I don't know how much water, I mean, I know how I felt the rain falling on me. So I know how much rain, I lived there for 2 years.
Yeah,
And during the rainy season, it could rain, it could pour every day.
okay.
But then during the dry season, you go long periods of time with no rain at all,
Uh-huh.
and so during the rainy season, yeah, your rain collection will work just fine, but during the dry season, those tanks will be empty.
Okay.
And they'll be empty for a few weeks, if not a couple of months. So there'd be no water. And that's the time when you really need water, is during the dry season, because they're going so far to get the water, and then the water is really low, and that's when it's really muddy, and they're all trying to fight over the same water. That's what she talked about in that video, about how they were fighting each other. They were fisticuffs. I'm next,
Yeah.
and the water is so limited. And water is life, so you will fight for it.
Yeah.
It's like, so.
But Brian, at one point, Good Luck did send us those statistics about how much water was needed in each place and how much was available through rainfall. I don't remember the numbers, but
Yeah, hey, what's up?
Clearly not adequate to just do it through rainwater collection.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was like a 25-page report, and like Good Luck's intelligence is way above mine, and so I couldn't understand all that he said. I was like, I just knew he must be right. He's really, he knows what he's doing. And then the other engineer was reviewing his work and then making sure it was right and all that. So we just knew that we couldn't do just collecting rainwater, just wouldn't be enough in the dry season. They would really struggle still. And having that water nearby would really allow them to make sure they can do 2 growing seasons, so that they, at least in their garden, they're going to have plentiful food, vegetables and things that they can grow there. It's going to make a big difference. I'm sure of it.
Brian, how many people live in that village that where the first system was put, where the woman was talking about the people fighting over it?
All right, I'm going to look it up. I don't know if I'll be fast at this. I'm going to try. Let's see.
Just an estimate. I mean, I'm just curious.
Yeah, I would estimate 2,000. Does that sound right? What do you guys, anybody else have a reasonable ask guess while I look for it? Let's see.
So do people come from the whole area to get water from there? Or is it limited just to the village pretty much?
Oh, just from the village. Yeah, in fact, I don't think it's all of the village. I think some of the villages, like maybe if they're on the other side, they might be closer to like one of their more primitive, is that the good word to use, sources? So this source will be year round, and we're sure that during the dry season, it will get a lot more use than it will during the rainy season. Because during the rainy season, there are other people who will say, oh, well, for this purpose, I can just go get free water this way, in a different direction. If it's to feed their cattle or something, they're not going to come buy water if they have nearby water. But once it dries up, they'll be coming.
Yeah.
So,
I have a different question about not the source so much, but in our area, at times they use a lot of gray water for for different projects.
For irrigation.
For irrigation,
yeah.
mostly, yeah. And so I was wondering about, so we see these kids washing their hands, which is great. Then what happens to that water? Can it potentially be used for something else, or is that just a one-shot deal and it drains back into the ground?
That's one shot, drains back to the ground.
You can't use it for the school garden?
It's a good question. It's a good question. I mean, we probably could do that. I mean, of course you could, right? Or if you put some buckets down there.
Yeah.
Or runs down to an irrigation thing that goes to the garden?
I thought that, I might be wrong, but I thought Good Luck had said something about using that for the toilets, right? Using gray water for the toilets.
Another good use, sure.
Whatever, as long as it's used, if it can be used more than once, that's, there you go.
But that's something we should talk to Good Luck about. I'm sure he's thought about that.
Yeah, I just wrote that down. I'll ask him. I hadn't thought of it. Good question.
And we're very inspired. It's just lovely to see people having their lives changed for something that we take for granted and waste like crazy.
Yeah, I mean, when we started this campaign, my wife and I were discussing like how to raise the funds, right? Like, what do you say and all that. And I said to her, I said, you know, nobody here understands what it's like to just not be able to turn on the water. And how do you get that across? And then the next day, we had some people working in our basement and they broke our water main.
Be careful what you ask for.
And I said, wow, I don't have water.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little more empathy there. Yeah.
Yeah, that motivated me some more. Like, let's figure this out. You know, everybody should have water, right? Everybody should have access to it. So it's pretty powerful stuff. So,
Big deal. Yeah.
yeah, excellent.
Well, once again, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys very much. If anybody else has any other questions or comments, now is the last chance. I guess, Melinda?
Yes, thank you. I'm having a great deal of difficulty with my internet, so that's why I participated until now, and I missed some of it. But I did want to say that we got to visit this June some of the water projects, and they're very, very impressive. Not only do they seem to work really well, but it was just so interesting that the community could come up and purchase water and, you know, go back home and not have to walk, you know, 10 kilometers each way or whatever. It was wonderful. And the at the teachers' housing, yes, you're right. They do have, I did see like metered water outside each unit. And the teachers do have to pay for that. So I'm assuming that they would pay the same amount as the community, but I'm not sure about that. Also, you mentioned the farm and the farming that goes on at the school to feed the children lunch. That was also just fantastic. It was wonderful that the kids were learning how to farm, because many of them will be farmers, you know. And so I was just really impressed with the whole system. And the thing I want more funds for is the kitchen there. They've got the food, but the kitchen it's just basically, from what I could see, just a shack with a trough outside that had water. So, I mean, and I understand that someone from the community actually comes in and cooks lunch for, you know, 100 kids, or I don't even know how many, so that they don't have to go back and forth, you know, to school for lunch, to their home for lunch. So anyway, yeah, that's certainly a need, I think, that's outstanding, since you've got in place the water, you've got in place the food, you've got in place, you know, a community that's involved in trying to make the lunch. You know, now we need somewhere for them to actually do that, that's sanitary and consistently, you know, responsive to whatever the needs are. Yeah,
I totally agree. So on the one hand, we just don't have the money for the kitchens right now. On the other hand, we thought, well, it's okay. Let's make sure that they're going to feed the kids for the, you know, get into that habit, because this is new, right? Like they may have been feeding the kids, like during exam times, they would feed 7th graders or something. But prior to this, they weren't really feeding the kids much at all. And so now, because of the farm program, together with parents making contributions, they're feeding them again. And so we kind of, now we don't have the money, so we couldn't do it if we wanted to. So just thought it made sense to say, well, show us that you're really going to feed the kids every day. We'll build you a kitchen. You know, so I think next year we'll have to do, you know, find the money, but to build the kitchens. And then we have plans actually already. We might probably, I think there's a good chance we had our architectural plans in hand already, but we probably won't do that. Well, we don't have the money, so we won't do it now, but they do, hopefully we'll do that. It is amazing how, you know, the farming is really changing. I mean, that's a whole nother hour we could talk about, but
Anyway, it was marvelous.
Oh yeah, and Melinda, I was gonna say, you know, when I was doing, I made this presentation today, and I almost put your photo in it because you were in one of the pictures. So, but you were there looking at it, you know, you were there looking at it. I was like, oh, there's a good picture of it, but Melinda's in it, so I don't know if she wants to be in the presentation. So
It doesn't matter.
Ron?
Yeah.
Yeah, to just follow up on what Melinda was saying, not only are the children learning about farming, but they're learning about a new, much more environmentally sustainable form of farming called conservation agriculture, or here, I guess it's called regenerative agriculture. So all the farms are based on no-till cover crop farming, where they're not using fertilizer. The cover crops are the so-called green manure. And that's been quite successful. And some of the community members are very interested in adopting this new type of farming. It also pulls carbon out of the atmosphere and puts it in the soil. So environmentally, it's an extremely friendly form of farming. The other thing is that the one school, I think it was Camaragüe, Martha was telling us on Wednesday that they do have a kitchen there, and they grew enough crops to feed all the children for the rest of this school, the rest of this year. So they've been very successful at Camaragüe. But the other schools probably don't have the kitchen facilities, but that school does. And
it has the same type of kitchen.
same type, yeah, it's not a very good kitchen, but they're managing to feed the kids, and they're growing corn and sweet potatoes and sunflowers and beans, and it's been a very successful. I mean, that is another topic, the school farms, but we've been very lucky to have a super, like good luck, a super competent person, Martha, in charge of the school farming and school gardens. Each of the schools has an agriculture club as well, and the students are doing gardens as well. So
what she has done on that, I think it's so interesting. So we don't go in telling people what to do. We go in asking, what do you want to do? How do you want to do this? And so Martha's gone in and shown them how to do this type of farming, and it's gotten people interested because now they can see it and go, wow, that corn's really growing tall, or those potatoes really look good, because of her expertise on, what Ron just sort of, tried to describe real briefly. It's a lot more complex than that, but it's doable. So she went in and she started to go to the communities. In each community, she has gone around and said, do any of you want to do this? Who here wants to do like a demo plot, a demo farm? And in your community. So each school, there's a handful of people, I want to say like around 10 people who have gotten together to do a farmers group, and they have planted a plot of land, each of them, in all 4 schools. And they did it with our resources, right? But they wanted to, right? So we gave them the seeds and whatever other inputs were needed. And then Martha helped guide them on how to do that. And she said, yeah, we'll do this. She said, but what percentage of the yield will you give to the school? So they all decided. I don't even know the percentage. It doesn't matter to us. It was their decision, right? They want to do this. So what percentage will you give to the students? And they all gave, like, I think 50% or something, pretty substantial. And that, I believe, if I'm not getting the schools mixed up, Martha would correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm not getting mixed up, the school you were just talking about, Ron, a lot of that food came from the farmers group. Does that sound right? I might be making that up. I know one of the schools is doing that right now actively. I think it's that one. So,
Brian, I was really struck when you said you struggled and talked to your wife about how to write a letter when you need something. Just ask.
yeah.
The words don't matter. I mean, when I get your stuff, I just scanned and said, okay, I think you have, at least the short time that Jed and I have been involved, we really trust you, and what you're doing is being done so well, and it's being done so smartly. And not that we can give tons, but when you ask for whatever, we'll give something. So don't worry about the letter so much. Just
thank you. I appreciate that. But I also feel like if I find the right way, more people will be like you, right? And they'll say, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Because, some people, they'll probably give no matter what, but others, they want to go, why should I? Like, what's the, prove it, that sort of thing.
Like,
but I just felt like if
you don't know what you need, tell us what you need, and we'll do what we can to help you.
Excellent. I appreciate that very much. Well, we're at the top of the hour now. I'm happy. I'll sit here all day, but I just don't want to feel like I'm keeping you guys here. So, all right. All right, good. Well, thanks again, everyone. And have a nice evening, and we'll be letting you know we have more coming up. We'll be doing more things like this. I think it's nice to just keep them really informal and give people a chance to hear what's going on and get some updates, ask some questions, and look forward to seeing you all again.
Yeah, okay.
Brian.
All right,
Very good,
guys.
Brian. Yeah.